Hello everyone, how's it going? I'm WoWcrendor and welcome back to another episode of Fishing with Crendor. And today I am fishing with WowHobbs.
Hey guys, Hobbs here.
So, thank you for joining me.
No problem.
And
Glad I could be here.
yeah, right on this log.
yeah, we're logger fishermen.
Yep. And we're in Grizzly Hills, which is a great zone because of all the pine trees and just the scenery in general.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite. I think this is a lot of people's favorite zones, and I hear people talk a lot about the music here as well.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I have the music turned on so it'll randomly pop up
Nice.
as we fish here. So for everybody that doesn't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do?
Well, I've been on YouTube since 2007, so it's been about 8 years, and started in World of Warcraft for many years, many videos, and absolutely loved the whole process and the feedback from viewers, and I think I started, well, I know I started with power leveling, but that's what really got me known was how to AoE power level and make massive amount of gold, which nobody had at the time. So I was pretty lucky. I was the first one to show it to that degree. And then over time, I got into raiding and gold farming, and now I'm fishing. Actually, and now I'm doing a lot of Hearthstone on my YouTube channel, which is lots of fun. I'm trying to beat the meta with my own decks. So I'm not using net decks. I try to play a little wonky, change things up, and it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll put your stream and your YouTube channel in the description as
Well,
usual.
thank you very much.
No problem.
I'm trying to find I'm trying to get my fishing ready. I got my MOP fishing rod. I just got to get I don't have my fishing macro out. Did you
Oh
progress
yeah.
in the fishing quite far? Like, are you max level, or are you just doing this to this series just to get max level?
Oh, I don't actually like even look at what I catch.
Oh boy.
I just keep fishing because I like having cool filming angles rather than continuously opening up my like UI and pulling out fish and stuff. But yeah, I remember like way back when, like seeing your like paladin AoE power leveling videos,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't really into that, so I was kind of like, I don't know, but I remember seeing you,
Mm-hmm.
and I always kind of wondered like, how did you even get into that? Well, I guess we can start with like, how do you even just get into gaming in general and Warcraft and all that?
Okay, long story, but I'll keep it short as I can. So, basically, gaming my whole life, right from the Atari 2600. So I've got probably 30 plus years in, and then the Commodore 64, and then all throughout. But then when MMORPGs came out, I got into EverQuest, and I started figuring out, believe it or not, power leveling back then. I was a druid, and I used to put thorns on people, have them run around the zone, and pick up mobs, and I could heal them. They wouldn't nerf their experience, and as long as they lived, they would just soak the experience and get the loot. It was like they got full credit. And then I moved on to Dark Ages of Camelot, and in that game, I got lucky one night where I was a healer, and I got invited to this group, and they figured out a way to pull all these little almost like goblins down, and they'd have two wizards AoE, and at the one central spot they had a pet that would hold aggro no matter what. And they said, just heal the pet. If the pet dies, we all die. So they pulled down this such mass amount of mobs, and then they would AoE them down, but it was different. It was a group effort. Now, I learned how to also do a lot of power leveling, not power leveling, but mass farming in that game. But when
Mm-hmm.
I got into Warcraft, I played the old school Warcraft, and I knew that I would love this game because I read so much about it. But when I read about a paladin, I thought, wow, there's something I can do everything I want to, but with one player. he's tough. He's a tank. He's a turtle, right?
Yeah.
B, um, at the time we had our own type of thorns. It was called Retribution Aura, so you could actually do some feedback damage. And then lastly, you had um, your own healing. So I thought I can do everything without a group. I can, power level. I can make, down tons of mobs. And I had it planned before the game came out. And then once it came out, it actually worked. And I did
Oh.
that forever. I loved it.
So, like, when you played old school Warcraft, like Warcraft 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, like,
Well,
how did you even...
I didn't power level in Warcraft 2 and 3. Sorry, just so but
Oh, yeah.
I liked that game, so I knew that when this game came out, like I was so ready
Yeah.
to play it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Like Dark Ages was just a filler between games, just to get to this point. Like they had so many things that I loved about it. One continuous world, no loading zones. It had the Warcraft universe in it. Um, it had the cartoony type of look. Like most of the things in the game aren't even circled. They kind of hexagon. Like if you look at the log across the way, it's not a circle. You're gonna find very few circles in this actual game, and I think it's more of an artistic choice, or the people who made it don't know how to make a circle. It's one or the other.
And
You know what I
hopefully
mean?
they know how to make a circle.
Hopefully, yeah.
But that's one of the
What-
things I've always liked about WoW too, is that cartoony feel.
Yeah, that's the next expansion. Now we bring you circles, real circles.
So how far into playing, and like did you power level your first guy too? Like, is that how you leveled?
No, not my own guy. Well, I would mass. Yeah, I would. I would like pull ground up a bunch of them, and then like I'd always be tanking more than one mob. So I did level tanking. I've shown a lot of it in my videos like afterwards, but my whole theory was while you're working on the one guy, the other three are slowly draining life. So that when you get to the next one, he's lower, and the next one, next one. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like using that AOE effect, and to your huge advantage. And that's why even with the Skull Flame Shield, when I started with that, which a lot of people recognize my character with it, it wasn't necessarily the look. The look was a bonus. In fact, when I first fell in love with the Skull Flame Shield, it had an older graphic. But the thing I really liked about it was when it is struck in combat, it has a 3% chance of stealing 5,000 life, which doesn't seem like a lot. But when you have 25, 30, 40 guys around you, that refills your life a lot, because there's a 5% chance, 5,
Yeah.
And then it also does some AoE damage. It has a little like a flame tick that will also has a 1% chance of dealing 92 fire damage to all the targets around you. With once again, if you're getting hit by 30 guys, it procs a lot more frequently.
Yeah, so you were thinking more about how is this item gonna benefit me getting hit by a bunch of mobs, or like how's it gonna benefit me AoE farming more than the average person was.
Well,
So,
that's all I did.
yeah.
I was actually, once I got into the public eye, I got called a noob a lot because I wasn't raiding. I wasn't doing this. I just really enjoyed doing like power leveling people, and actually those comments after a while got me thinking, am I missing out on a part of the game? Which I'm glad I went into raiding, because then I got into Karazhan and got into all the other things. But I really enjoyed getting, what we started in Karazhan when people were like in, I think, I don't know how far off. They must have been like three dungeons ahead of us. Like I started really, really late, but then we caught up, and then we got better and better. And of course, as the game got easier, there was things that they've added. It kind of I guess Aldomar was probably the pinnacle of our thing. I guess what happened was we actually downed a boss that no other guilds had downed, and we had top end guilds asking us, how did you do it, how did you do it? And it was pretty awesome at that time. It was almost like recognition that we finally were kind of a valid raiding team. But it took from Karazhan to Alduar to actually get to that point.
What boss was it?
XT002. It was right. What happened is they had to do a nerf on it because nobody could down it. We were pretty fortunate that it wasn't all me either. My group, we had a lot of paladins in our group because so many people watching Hobbs videos and
Yeah.
join, and then next you know it's like, well, I can't have a paladin. I got four paladin healers. I got four tanks. I got this many rets. Like there's no other spots. But sometimes we'd have to think outside the box compared to your regular video because people say CC here or do this, and it's like I don't have CCs. I got 35 paladins and me. But at the same time, it worked. Like I'm trying to remember what we did. We slowed the trash down somehow, and I think we repositioned them. I can't even remember. I just remember that it was exciting that we downed him, and then 2 days later they did a hot fix and they actually nerfed him. And I'm like, guys, we got him before the hot fix. That's a major thing in my eyes. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yes,
it was a
definitely.
decent. So that's probably one of my best rating moments. I never got into hardcore rating. Like I won't say yes, we were but now you got different tiers, right?
Yeah.
But and
And
now I've done normal. I did normal for a while in the latest expansion. I haven't even jumped into their most recent patch. I kind of got out of it a while back, and now I've been. It's not that, you know, it's funny because I get asked a lot, why did you quit WoW? I haven't quit. I try to keep the gamer in my show. So not to lose myself. And right now, I just don't want to play to that degree. I don't want to commit my time. I'll log in and do something, but you know what I mean?
yeah.
Maybe I might get that urge later, but I don't want to just kind of say, here I am just because, right?
Yeah. I've honestly had that like happen throughout the 10 years I've been playing or whatever it's been. Like I remember I quit probably like 10 to 20 times in the first year or two of actually playing the game. Like I didn't continuously play like back then. So I think a lot of people also quit like a lot, but they don't remember it. They kind of just remember playing WoW because it's so long ago.
Yeah, you kind of, yeah, and it's funny, you don't always have to quit. Like I still have an active subscription. I still can log in when I want. It's just, I just, sometimes I don't want to be I like the break, you know?
Hmm.
Sometimes I'm focusing on other stuff, and it's also a time thing too. It depends how busy you are IRL, right?
Yeah, that's another big one.
Yeah.
So what about with YouTube? Like you did all the power leveling and all that. When did you actually decide like I'm gonna make videos out of this or like I can do YouTube?
Well, I was in Scarlet Monastery and power leveling people, and they would really say, "Wow, that's unbelievable." And I had lineups of people. This is before I did videos. Like they'd say, and they would just kind of. I got well known on the server for power leveling, and then every once in a while I'd have somebody say, "Wow, that was amazing. You should put that up on YouTube." And I didn't even know what YouTube was, so I'd look it up, and there's a bunch of like guys getting hit in the nuts, and it was
Cat videos.
yeah, cat videos. I'm like, is there a spot here? But then there was some Warcraft videos, and I studied it for a long time before I did my first video, and it took a couple people saying it, hey, try this out. Like the people would like this, but I always, and even to this day, I don't like copying other people's style.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Speaking of that, I've got a fishing show coming out next week. Um, no, but you know what I mean. I don't
Yeah.
like it. Like I don't. I kind of like. Um, I like to try to keep it unique. And so even at the first video, looked everywhere to see if anybody else was power leveling. Was anybody else doing this? And nobody was. There was videos. There's a lot of PvP videos,
Mm-hmm.
but it was all music. There was
Yeah.
no voice videos barely. Like I don't remember anybody making an actual series. So I did voice. I talked through my first video, and then um, and I showed the power leveling, and it went really, really well. The first one's still my biggest video to date. I think it's about to 2.4 million.
Oh whoa.
And yeah, I haven't been able to beat it yet. But the funny thing is by video 2, uh, you'll notice that at the end I said, guys, the subscribe, like, and all this other stuff, because I had no clue what it was on the first video. But when I saw subscribers, I'm like, what's this? I had like 63 subscribers after a week, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna notify them. Well, my people who need to watch need to know it's an ongoing series. So on video 2, I said, make sure you follow, like, and subscribe or whatever, just so you can get more, so you can see the next show. And then I just continued that on, and then years later, other people that's like a common thing now for
Yeah,
everything.
you're one of
right?
the OGs, the
Yeah,
originals.
it was fun. Crendor at the beginning, I was the top 40 something of all of YouTube. All of YouTube now.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah,
Like
really.
top 40?
Yeah, 40, maybe 8. You know.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty mind blowing. Now, keep in mind at that time I probably only had 60,000 subscribers, so the pool wasn't as big as it is now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember looking at Philip DeFranco, and he had about 160,000, and I had 60. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness, could you imagine if that, like I looked at that, he was in the top 10 at like
Yeah.
160 or 190, and it was huge. And yeah, I don't know, it wasn't as big, but it was cool. It was a cool time because I think word of mouth was really powerful at that time too. Like when somebody clicked on something, it went on their own page that they liked it, and then people were a lot of social on YouTube, which was really neat. Like
Mm-hmm.
I used to like a video and it would get, 12,000 views overnight, and I really enjoyed that because, you're making people happy, especially if they put some hard work into their video.
Yeah, you're actually giving them the credit
Yeah,
because
a little
otherwise
bit.
they're just gonna get like 50, like 20 to 50 views or something,
Hmm.
if that. But yeah, I remember back then too. Yeah, like 100,000 views was like top 10 of YouTube. So I remember Philip DeFranco was one of the first people.
Yeah,
But I didn't know you were like that high up there. Like that's pretty insane.
it was pretty cool. I enjoyed it. And it's for me, believe it or not, the numbers were neat, but
Mm-hmm.
I've always treated my audience as how I visualize my first video, and I still try to do this today, is me talking with one other person. Okay, because the the concept of it was I noticed that people like to talk video games in their spare time. If you had a friend at work who played the same game you did, the moment you guys had downtime, you'd be chatting about the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I made a one that now everybody talks about games, but that's why I made a verbal or voice show, because I wanted it to be something we could interact and something that people could discuss and ideas. And now we have that happening all the time, which is it's live streams. We have
Mm-hmm.
YouTube videos. Um, yeah, I still think the industry is phenomenal, and it's neat to see where it's going to evolve to.
Yeah, 'cause it's still growing.
Oh
It was
yeah,
almost like the way back then. That was like the birth almost of all of it. Like you're around to see it like just happen. Like it's I don't know. It's crazy how much it's grown in just a matter of like not even 10 years. Like it hasn't even been around 10 years. You know.
yeah, that's amazing, eh?
But like you look at WoW, for instance, too, and you like look at how much WoW has grown over 10 years as well, and how much WoW has changed.
Well, look at the I don't know what your graphic settings are, but look at the water, how beautiful the water is. Look at
Yeah.
the shadow effects. I was noticing that when I was flying my mount over. In fact, even when I fly a mount here, you'll see it the shadow most likely on the log, and I can
Mm-hmm.
go way up high, and you'll still see the shadow on the log, which is phenomenal. I remember when they brought that out, and self shadowing.
Yeah.
Remember when they did that? Like, you bring your weapon out, and as your hand moves across your body, you'll see the shadow upon yourself or within the textures, and even the textures of the armor. Like, yeah, you're right. It has evolved. I love this game. And I don't think it's been the same game forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like we've gotten a lot of games out of it.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's a good way of putting it too, because with every expansion, I think it's changed just a bit more, and I think after like multiple expansions, you really start to see it. It's almost like I like to think of it as like maybe your like niece or nephew or someone, and you like only see them like a couple times a year, and you're like, all right, see you later, and then you see them like a year later, and you're like, oh, you're a little bigger, and then you're like, wait, and you're like, oh, you're a little bigger, and then like 3 or 4 like meetings later and years down the road, you're like, oh wow, like you're really different, and it's like almost the same thing as WoW. Like you may not notice it slowly changing at first, and then a couple expansions down the line, you really start to notice how much it's actually changed.
I think honestly that's why I like video games so much is sometimes it's not even the games itself. It's seeing where this industry as a whole is going to evolve to because um and you're right, like I got the Oculus Rift for that reason to see the technology evolve. Not only
Mm-hmm.
just graphics and sound and everything, but one day you and I might be standing here with Oculus Rifts beside each other fishing on a log. And yes, you're right. There, the little steps. If you step away from it for a while and then get back into WoW, that would be pretty amazing because you would see the character upgrades, just like you're saying. You'd see the texture upgrades. If we like, if we go to BC and compare the trees there compared to the trees now in the new WOD, it's
Mm-hmm.
unbelievable the difference. Like you look back and you're like, wow, the game looks dated in the old, whatchamacallit, Outlands.
Yeah, or even just I remember old Azeroth, like the trees were kind of like cut up paper, like
Yep.
almost like green construction paper. But it's like that's what happens when it's 10 years old. But that cartoony feel still kept it like still a bit fresh, like not like another game like EverQuest or something where it's trying for a more real look.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's what I've always liked about WoW too. Like even though people are like, oh, the graphics are bad or blah blah blah, like it still wasn't terrible. Like it was just bad compared to old WoW or bad compared to maybe like some high graphics new game. But
Yeah,
I
first
think it's
person
more,
shooter or something that's
yeah,
trying to go more realistic, but I think they're stuck on this style, the art style, and you're right that if you see some of the particle effects that are going on now, it's definitely not the same as it was years ago. But
mm-hmm,
MMORPGs have always not had as good a graphics, I think, at the beginning because they had to deal with you and me here standing on the log, and they had to deal with not just two of us, but there could be 100 of us or more, right?
yeah,
So they had to deal with a lot of more than just, let's say, a first person solo shooter would back in the day. So they kind of focus more on, I think, the technology and how to put, how to sew this all together.
yeah,
Like,
like the what's it called? They have now phasing,
yeah,
which is
wow.
really cool technology. The fact that you can be on different servers and play together, like I think it's awesome. But even like I remember back with AQ, where they had the gong and everybody showed up and all the servers crashed. So it's kind of funny, but it's like that's how big the game is, and I think a lot of people even don't realize still how big the game is, and that's why you're never really going to like take down quote WoW or like kill WoW because WoW has already become like such an icon in not even just like video game like for video gamers, but just like society in general. Like most people that don't even know about video games know about WoW.
Hmm.
Like that's how powerful of a game it is, and it's kind of crazy because like even just role-playing games in general, I don't think a lot of people knew about role-playing games until WoW.
Yeah, I don't think many did. I did, but yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I played the EverQuest, but EverQuest was my first MMORPG. But then before that, there was other games I played. I played the game Bard's Tale back on the Commodore 64, where you had, stats like strength, agility. You had your thief, you had your bard, you had your fighter, and you would go through. And the graphics were hideous compared to now, but it was such a great game for its time that it ate up a lot of my time. Now it was single player, but it was also had that aspect of multiplayer because, well, you had multiple characters that you would trade weapons back and forth with, and if it was an agility thing, it would work better with the, let's say, a thief, and if you had something else, which a thief was, I guess, more like a rogue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a fun game back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It opened the doors to a lot more, and they've changed a lot of things, which of course wow, it's hard to keep everybody happy,
Yeah.
and but they take away the talent trees and add this and make this easier and make different things, like they tweak the, even now with the armor sets, how it might have, if you're a paladin, it will have armor on it, but if you're if you're tank, it will have armor on it, but if you're a cloth healer, it will have whatever, intellect or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like they made it more, I guess, easier to gear, because now that one piece is useful to more people within the party. So I think they've had to streamline it more to make it. They want to balance it, right? Whereas
Yeah.
before, when we went in a raid, you might see the same piece of gear drop, but all of your guys, all your chamois have that piece, so it's useless to everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get what you're saying. And I mean, that's kind of the whole, the game becoming more mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And because I remember, like, back when I first started playing WoW, like, it was either people that played EverQuest that were coming over, people
Yep.
that played Warcraft RTS games and wanted to know about it, or like people that were just kind of gamers and they're like, oh, this looks like a cool new game. But like that was still like a very small community of people, like the nerds, you know.
Yeah.
And so you had all that, and then over time it was like more like those people started telling their friends like, this is a really cool game. And I think a lot of people that didn't even know like MMORPGs existed, like EverQuest and all those games, started playing, and they're like, it's probably all right. And then they get hooked. 'Cause I know even like Towley talked about that. He was like, yeah, you nerds playing that game, the people he worked with. And then he started playing, and then he was hooked from there on. So it's kind of funny to like see all those people. 'Cause I mean, I was in high school when I started, so I was like a freshman in high school, and the game had just come out, and my friends were like, oh yeah, you should play it, it's really cool. And I was like, oh, all right. And I looked into it and I started playing, and I was like, as soon as I started playing it, I was hooked, and I loved it. And that's what it also has over a lot of other newer games or games that try to compete with it, is it has that nostalgia factor built into it, because you have all those good memories with it. So even if a new game comes out and you play it and you're like, well, it was fun, then you get tired of it and you're like, well, I guess I'll go back to WoW, because you have that tie to it still.
Every time once I quit WoW years ago, and I remember after a month I spent like $130 in games, or maybe 140. I don't know. It was a lot
Yeah.
compared to my $15 a month. Like, and then a month later I'm spending like 60, 70, and then I'm like, I can't afford to not play WoW, because people sometimes say, oh yeah, $15 a month, and it's like, it's a cheap hobby when you
Yeah.
think about it. Now you could look over the year, we spent $150, but if you look nowadays, you can get better games and cheaper games because of online services and stuff like that,
Yeah.
right? But back when they were only at a store, it was like $60 for your Xbox or for your, PlayStation per shot.
Yeah.
And so it could get expensive gaming non-PC, or even we had to buy the PC games there. Speaking of that, you were talking about your friends getting each other into it. I remember EverQuest was my first introductory to it, so it wasn't this, but my I played it, and I had a friend of mine who I knew through college, who I knew would absolutely love it, and he ended up playing WoW years later with me as well. But I said, you got to get this game, and so he says, okay, I'll get it tomorrow or whatever after work, and there were none there. So he lived about 3 hours away. So I said, okay, let me check my store here, and I checked my store in my city, and I said, okay, I'll meet you halfway. We met halfway at some, just at a gas station, just so he could get it. That's how much I wanted him to try it. And then afterwards, bam, hook, line, and sinker. Pardon the pun. You know, we are fishing, but basically,
True.
he it took over his life. He loved that game. And then we played this, and well, actually, we played a lot of them. But yeah, that's the other thing I love about the games is, you know, speaking of friends moving from different cities and stuff, and it does bring a lot of people together because, you know, I'm not the type to call up on the phone and say, "Hey, what's going on?"
Mm-hmm.
"Oh yeah, I mowed the lawn today."
Yeah.
"Yeah, it's raining." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas you can chat with friends while gaming, kind of like you and I are hanging out here,
Mm-hmm.
doing something, you know, getting your fishing skill hopefully up to max level.
Yeah. Yeah, it adds that kind of extra element that keeps people, like, you know, kind of not bored. Because, you know, you like talk on the phone, you're like, yeah, that's cool. And usually when you talk on the phone, you're like pacing around or doing something else or like,
Yeah.
uh, s-
Anyways,
uh, yeah. And so, like playing WoW, I remember, you know, I'd like be in school and I'd be like, oh man, I'm gonna go home and we're gonna raid ZG tonight, and I'm
yeah,
gonna, you know, get the heal, and maybe my gear's gonna drop, and when I get home, I'm gonna go farm this stuff to like get ready for the raid. Like I'm gonna get to talk with my friends, and you know, because I had a lot of friends like I went to grade school with, or like where I used to live next to them, and then they moved away, or you know, it was like we're in high school now, and then you know we'd get to hop on and raid together and actually talk, and so it was almost like I talked to them more now than I did even back when I lived near them, which is kind
exactly.
of funny. And that's why it's always funny where people are like, oh yeah, the anti-social nerds go on the internet, and it's like, really, they're more social than you think, because people are really just social, and it's like it just gives them an easy way to socialize instead of having to be forced out into the world and like having that awkward experience. I don't know, but I think WoW even helped people to become more social. It helped me to become more social.
There was an article on Forbes the other day about why to hire a uh, a guild leader to be a manager in real life, because and then they told about all the different qualities, like to make decisions on who is most productive, to make sure you're on time, and to make sure that people are ready for the task at hand, to evaluate the task at hand. And there was all these points um, of why somebody in WoW, these qualities that we acquire that we don't even realize. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? The organizational skills of, you know, your bag maintenance, and you know, you only have so much this, the how to get your followers to go on garrison missions.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of I don't want to say
It's a skill.
skills. I'm not saying we're the
Yeah.
Warcraft people are taking over the universe because we figured out how to, you know, um, make bank alts, but
It's like
it's
it
kind of like
teaches you the basics of like those
people
areas.
management and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
talking and working together, and actually knowing your role and doing it well,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at yourself to improve upon that role. Because I'll say that we were talking about rating earlier. A lot of people thought I was a king of noobs, like I was behind the times. I wasn't your hardcore raider, but I was always progressing, and I absolutely loved the game. um, I also didn't sacrifice my life 100% for it. And I'm not saying that the hardcore guys did either, because, but they did put in a bit more time. Um, the thing was, though, was I enjoyed learning more. I enjoyed, you know, figuring out the little things that could kill you while tanking. Remember back, I don't know if you were ever tanking, but even Karazhan, figuring out how to be uncrushable, I think it was, or something like that. You had this magic number you had to go online and figure out. You had to have your this at certain cap and that here, and and then
Oh yeah,
bam,
I know it. I remember.
you couldn't be one-shotted, right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
got yourself to that level. But then you had to balance that stat all throughout your upgrade. It wasn't just the first time, but as you got better gear, that stat became easier to maintain, and then you could start to excel in other stats. And I don't know why I just started talking about this. We were talking about excelling and all this, but there's a good memory that popped up was, I guess, learning, you know, even something as simple as that to get into raiding was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I think that shows you how it's become more mainstream. Like how back then you had to do things like balance your stats and like keep track of that, or you know, even where you had to go meet up at the meeting stone, or even before meeting stones, you had to go into the all chat and find people to group with and go there and all that. But it's like they've like simplified it over the years, but I always say this is like they simplified it a little too much. I think I thought Wrath of the Lich King was like a great like point to hit for simplification. Like it was simple, but it wasn't like oversimplified. And I think after Wrath is when they went a little overboard with it all. But that's just my preference, or I guess perspective.
Yeah, you know, where I think that the normal, heroic, and all these like four difficulties for one raid, like it kind of started in Ulduar when we all of a sudden had a hard mode, but it wasn't like flipping a switch, other than at Mimron's head or Mimron, because you know you got to actually push a button.
Mm-hmm.
But you know you had to do certain things to activate the hard mode, but it wasn't each boss, but there were different ones, and it was kind of like the introduction of a new level of. But you're right. In they started to have it so you could just flip it into another mode. Then LFR and all these other things came in. The thing though, about Lich King, the one thing I did not like about Lich King was the 10-25 man, and if you wanted all the best gear, you had to do both. But it was such a weird number because you could have two 10-man teams in the guild, but then where do you get the other five guys, the ones that aren't part of a 10-man? Or let's say you had, like, the ideal guild would have been five 10-mans, two 25-mans, but that's very, very hard to
Yeah.
manage, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it. We had two 10s, and the problem was is some people would be like, oh, why do we have all these guys and we're not as good, we're not as progressed? But then we'd say, yeah, but we get together once a week and we play the 25, and then they get better gear. And I don't know, it was a tough one socially
Mm-hmm.
to manage, right?
Yeah.
Because you were trying to keep so many people happy, and plus you couldn't always be there all the time because you weren't couldn't be in both 10-mans.
Yeah. I only ever really rated 10 man because I didn't really care as much about the loot as I did just like doing the boss fights. Like I just enjoyed showing up and being with people I knew and kind of like working together to take a boss down. Like that's what I enjoyed more than anything. And the loot was just kind of like a little added bonus at the end. So when people were like, "Hey, we could do 25 mans," I was like, I don't really care enough. Or like hard modes, like I didn't care enough about hard modes to really get into it. Like I do a few of them, but again, that was just my preference. I know a lot of people love like make it as hard as possible.
I get into a few of them, and I have done hard modes in the past, but yeah, even the last few expansions, I've done normal a lot, and I've been happy with it. It's just been kind of like, and you're same thing, the experience, get it going, but at a level that's not LFR, a little bit more of a challenge, and you're there, right? And then
Yeah.
we have done a few of the hard ones too. But yeah, I think it's more of the experience and seeing the game. And
So why don't you tell me some of your favorite memories in WoW?
well, I've got a few. Um, One of them was one night I had a few viewers at the end of the night. I had been power leveling all night, and so I'd done the videos, a lot of messages, and somebody said, "Oh, Obs, can you power level my us? We're in um, Hellfire, and we want to go, into Ramparts." And I said, "You know what?" I said, It's 2:30 in the morning. I said, "I'm really tired." I said, "Can we do this a different night?" "Oh, please, come on. I'm one of your biggest fans. We even have somebody to summon you here." And I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you know what? I my fans, they're everything. They made my show a success. So I really do try to go over and above as much as I can. You can't do everything, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Oh, you got a summon?" And he's like, "Yeah, perfect." And so I said, sure. And I take the summon, and they summoned me off the side of a cliff to my death. Oh man. It felt, it felt like a tool. They kind of apologized after, but it was funny. It was like it took everything in me to say, "Oh," and I was almost half relieved because I'm like, I didn't want to be up for another hour. So
You could go to bed then.
yeah, yeah, but it was just like it was a prank.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the viewers themselves, like the first time it ever hit me that this is another memory was we got comments and everything, but when it started happening in game, I I, I was in Stormwind one day, and I just went AFK sitting in one of the random streets, and I came back about like however many minutes later, and there was a crowd of people, about 16 people standing around me, and it was very weird. Like it
Yeah.
was like as soon as I got up, oh yeah, hey Hobbs, yeah, and it was like, wow, this is like it was like famous, right? Because
Yeah.
you're like, and it was different. That was a neat time where I kind of, and then the chat was crazy, and that it was kind of neat to see all the different interactions. But the game itself, the XT002 was a great memory. My level 70 ding was great, and my level 80 was my second biggest YouTube video. But it was neat because it was the first one where I had a second perspective. I was on the side of a cliff, and I had it timed just. I almost died 3 times in one pull, and when I mean almost died, I mean my health went down, and then I used a lay hands, and then my health went down again. And when you level, you get your health back, and I was counting on that. So my health went down, and bing, I hit level 80. Was it 80 or 70? It was in Northrend.
It's probably 80.
Level 80. It was
Yeah.
80, yeah. And so I did it, and but then I had all the mobs dead except for this one elite, which I knew I couldn't kill. And so then I got all the mobs down. I was almost dead again. And then I jumped off the cliff, but I saved my bubble for the cliff. And that was a neat time because I had a second guy um, in the air kind of videotaping it, and I had my perspective. So videotaping, doesn't that sound old school?
Yeah.
He had a camcorder on his shoulder,
Plug it
and
in your
he's
VHS.
yes, yes,
It's cool though. It's like a sky cam viewpoint.
yeah. And so we had 2 different angles, which was pretty nifty. It was the first one, but in WoW, I don't know, man. It's been the people and the comments. I don't even know. They carried me through a lot of the times where maybe I might not have played, and sometimes you know what I mean? It's kind of like the viewers they do so much for myself just to keep you going because just the positive comments and the long term, people saying, "Hey, I've watched you for 8 years. It's been great. Thank you very much." And that's honestly what keeps me going a lot of the times, and just kind of, even though I'm doing a lot of Hearthstone and not WoW right now, I'm still trying to put that energy into that series. And who knows, I might start playing this again more so. I'm playing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I am playing WoW right now, but we're fishing, right? But
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm playing it to that degree. Old
Yeah,
school
because I mean,
memories.
like, I know it's so easy to get like down on yourself with the negative comments too, and so I always just kind of like keep reminding myself like the vast majority of people watching the video are, happy and enjoying it and really appreciate like the video going up and you doing all that. And so I just tell myself that to kind of overpower the negative ones. 'Cause it really is easy to like let the negative ones kind of cut you down.
It's funny. Wouldn't have honestly. Until you mentioned that, I honestly wouldn't imagine you would ever get a negative comment. And I'm not saying that. It's just like I've always seen you as a comedy. Well, you know, and I know people can crap on anybody for anything. I think I had it a lot because it was PvP new, PvE noob and PvP and noob and this and noob and that. But
Yeah.
but and so that's why sometimes I did push myself to try to get a little bit better for the guild, for me, for my viewers who really enjoyed it. Um, but I've always seen Crendor personally as, you know, just the comedy guy who makes me laugh and who really does some really good machinimas, and I don't know why anybody would say anything bad. Maybe it's not the right machinima.
Well, a lot of it's like either Hearthstone, like you're doing bad plays,
Oh yeah.
or a lot of machinimas be like, this isn't as good as your older video, or like, well, you know, things like that. But you know, it's not like a lot of people. It's seldom, and I mean, I try to not let it get to you, to let it get to me anyway, because you can't, because it's like anytime you're gonna have a lot of people watching your videos or whatever you're doing, your stream, whatever, you're gonna get people that don't like you as much. But like, and that's fine. I don't care. You know, like there's a lot of people I like and don't like too. Like some people might like, well, I don't like them, but then I'm not like, oh, I hate you or whatever. You know, I just move on. I'm like, well, this isn't for me. I'm gonna, you know, go watch someone else. And you know, but yeah, that's part of the entertainment industry.
Yeah, you do have to have a thick skin through it all. The other thing too, though, yeah, when you transition from one game to another, that's tough too. Sometimes on a lot, because you know, I think there's a certain percentage that just want to see me play the same game for the rest of my life, regardless if I like it or not. And what I'm hoping to do is share my gaming experience. And WoW seemed to be one part of my game for so many years, but right now it's Hearthstone. I share some other games in the past or on the channel, but it could be WoW again, but it might not be. I don't know. I just want to I want to keep the gaming in the real, you know, don't want to lose myself, just kind of play this game for views or play that game. I just kind of want to keep it as play what I would have really played if you know, if I wasn't presenting. So that way it kind of hopefully keeps the show about gaming and not just about, you know, me playing the latest thing even if I hate it.
You have the same conundrum as me, kind of, with you have WowHobbs.
Oh yeah,
WoW in front of your name, and I have WoWcrendor. So everyone's like, "You're WoWcrendor. Where's the WoW videos?" And
I know.
So I always tell them it's like, "Wow, Crendor."
Wow.
We're like, "Wow, Hobbs." You know, like the shock factor.
Yeah. Wow. But yeah, I'll never. And one thing I will say with this game, because we've been talking about old times, I'll never diss this game. Like I know they haven't made all the right choices, and they made a lot of great choices, but I really think that as a game as a whole, it's been the best game I've played. I can't, you know, I don't want to say in my life because I've played a lot of games, and my wife, she always says, like, I'll play a game and I'll be just blown away with the graphics or the new physics or something awesome, and I'll be like, this is the best game I've ever played in my life. And she says, I don't know how many times I've heard you say that before, because sometimes, you know, sometimes the latest games are pretty cool.
They are, but I honestly would say it's the best game I've played in my life.
Yeah, WoW is pretty solid, and the only sad thing is sometimes too the community, including myself and you, because we're YouTubers, and the audience, sometimes we crap so easy on Blizzard because of the nostalgia factor. And the same way that sometimes people crap on you and me for our videos because, oh my god, this isn't Hobbs and Scarlet Monastery. Why can't you do that forever? It's because, you know what, it would be boring after a while, and I'd be bored. The people watching would be like, all he is ever in SM. Yet I still appreciate the SM. I still appreciate the early, you know, the Meatwad days. And all this. It's just, you can't do it all the time for your own benefit and for your viewers, because yeah, I see it as art. If you do different things and try different, some of the things that have happened over the years, if I was just doing WoW, or if I didn't get into, you know, the the raiding, or I did some, you know, gold farming videos outside and a bunch of other different things, some of the cool moments wouldn't have happened. You know, so I don't know, variety's good. I
Yeah.
always say, hey, if you really enjoyed it, they're still there. You can still go back, and I still love my old
Yeah.
stuff and your old stuff. It's just um, you can't make it like you used to. Otherwise, it's just might as well just go watch that one.
Because you change as a person as well. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're not going to be the same as you were 5 years ago. You
No.
know, because you go through things in your life that change you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think is part of the beauty of all of it too. Because there's people being like, "Man, you're new. You know, you've changed." I'm like, I have. You know, it's like I hope I've changed. 'Cause that means I'm growing as a person as well. Uh, but it also means you want to try out other stuff and not just be stuck in one area. But I still always will love just WoW, like making WoW videos, because I love the art style. And people are like, why don't you try machinimas in other games? I'm like, I don't really want to. I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather, play other games or commentate other games or make little funny edits of, the other game. But I know the only game I really enjoy making like an actual machinima out of is WoW. And I think it's because of that cartoony style. It almost makes it feel like a cartoon. And I
Mm-hmm.
like that a lot because it's almost like that adds a bit of comedy to it as well. But yeah, it's all, and I talked about that with Oxhorn and TB
Mm-hmm.
and a few. I think most of the people actually is that they think like, wow, I really appreciate those times I had back in vanilla WoW or back when I played or back when I made videos about WoW and stuff. But they've moved on, and they like to look back or go back and watch their old videos, but you can't relive the past. You can try though, but it won't be as good most likely. Who
You
knows?
know,
Maybe you maybe you'll actually have more fun now than you did in the past. I don't know.
well, that's where I'm at right now. Like where I'm playing, like to bring up Hearthstone again. I am having the most fun with that game that I've had in a long time, designing, tweaking my own decks, figuring stuff out, and every once in a while somebody says, "Go back to playing WoW," and it's like I'm hoping they see that it's the same enthusiasm, the same trying to bring a uniqueness. Every channel can be unique, but there's a lot of them that can be similar. But I try
Mm-hmm.
to bring my own style so that people will hopefully enjoy. And there's a lot of people now that have really caught on to the videos, which has been really nice. It makes it feel like for me like old times again.
Mm-hmm.
So meeting new people, getting new ideas and new series too.
Yeah. Well, everything's just personality driven. Because like personality is really what diversifies like any YouTube channel or any YouTuber or streamer or anything is like their personality is unique compared to someone else. And if you try to copy someone, you're gonna be not as good as them. You're gonna be either an average version of them or a below average version of them. And so it's better off just being you and doing what you enjoy and what you have fun with. And that's the biggest key with any YouTube type thing, or just playing games. Play what you want to play. Don't play something because it gets lots of views. Play it because you enjoy playing it.
You know what I played the other day on a stream was I don't remember. It's called the Telsa Effect. It had Tex Murphy, and I just bought it on Steam.
Oh, the
And
Tesla, or was
yeah,
it?
Tesla Effect. Yeah,
Yeah, I saw
Tesla.
Jesse played that.
Oh, did he? Yeah, it is. I'm only halfway through, but I had such a fun time playing it because I used to play the original one, like the Pandora Directive or something,
Mm-hmm.
and there was another one I played back. We're talking 20 plus years ago. So to see
Oh.
they redid it, well, it's not a redo. It's like just a new game, but based on the same character and everything, and it's got tons of humor and everything. That was fun to play, but that was a game where I just kind of, hung out with my regular viewers one night and said, "Hey, we're gonna try this," and a lot of them really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So speaking of your stream, it's
Yep.
probably a good time to plug yourself again and wrap it up. So we've almost gone an hour. That's
Cool,
about.
cool. Well, thanks for having me here.
Yeah.
I stream 5 to 7 days a week, whenever I can. Sometimes during the day, sometimes at night. A lot of Hearthstone now, and who knows what it's gonna be gaming, and my goal is to entertain people for as long as I can, and through a variety of digital media. I say digital media now because I never thought I would live stream. I was scared, like you wouldn't believe, at the beginning of live streaming. Even though I had tons of views on YouTube, the live streaming was like, it was just foreign to me. And I hung out on Hybrid Panda's channel for a while, just voice only, and then finally I got enough courage to do my own. And I love the live stream interactivity, but now I'm kind of balancing both that and YouTube. And you know, I try to keep it a friendly chat for people. My main goal is, the numbers are not the most important thing. It's the quality of the conversation, the quality of the interaction that I can with viewers. I try to talk with everybody. I know I'm not 100%. I miss a few, but I try to make sure that as long as they're not being jerks to the audience or myself, it's a nice place to just kind of hang out and chat.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I'll put your links again in the description below.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. And
Caught some fish.
we did catch some fish.
I'm gonna go sell them on the fish market.
I actually caught no fish.
Oh no!
I spent an hour fishing and not catching any fish. Here, I'll give much like real life.
Oh, I can't even trade it with you. I was gonna give you some fish, but
oh yeah, they
from
cross
different
server.
zones. they don't want to spoil the fish market for my server. You know, it's just like, no, these guys are gonna corner it.
The fish market will not be ruined.
WowHobbs and Crendor.
All right. See you later.
See you later, buddy. Thank you again.
See you.